I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians on the land on which we are today, the Bindal and Wurundjeri peoples, and for those from wherever you may be joining us. I pay my respects to elders and innovators past, present and emerging, and I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. Welcome to First Wednesday Connect. Thanks for joining us in this virtual event space. I'm Smart Precinct NQ's Communities Manager, Susan Graham-Ryan. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to also acknowledge our Smart Precinct NQ board members, John Chandler and Tristan Davey, as well as our community leaders and our guest speakers joining us today. And a special hello to those who are joining us as part of Smart Hub Charters Towers. Thanks for joining us. We encourage you to use the hashtag SmartPrecinctNQ or hashtag SPNQ hotspot when we get to that point, and tag us on Facebook and Instagram. The hotspot will be back toward the end of the event. If you'd like to jump out of your comfort zone and onto the hotspot, send us a DM in the chat throughout this session and we'll make sure your name is on the list. Tonight's event will aim to highlight founders who are growing globally after starting and operating in North Queensland. We hope tonight will be empowering, inspiring, lead to new connections and share authentic stories of lessons learned and resilience in the startup space. Unfortunately, one of tonight's guest speakers, Kristen Goldup, the founder and CEO of Local Tickets, otherwise known as Townsville Tickets, Charters Towers Tickets or Burdekin Tickets, has been unable to join us due to the flooding event in southeast Queensland. We are thinking of her, and on behalf of the community, I have reached out today to let her know that she's in our thoughts. We do, however, have the honour of two other guest speakers, including Alana Kennedy from Ochre and Bryce Szandro. We'll hear from these amazing locals about their founder journey, lessons along the way, and their early efforts to take their startup to the world. Introducing Alana Kennedy. She's the CEO and founder of Ochre. Alana is a proud I knew I would get this wrong, Alana. I even practice so much. Wangi and Kalkatungu woman with a mission to create sunscreen and cleaning products with sustainably and ethically sourced native Australian botanicals using bush medicine. Alana and her team have a goal of increasing awareness, demand and supply of our native botanicals and to create more jobs by developing an all-Indigenous supply chain. Alana joins us now to share her founder story. Alana, feel free to unmute and we'd love to hear about what your founder journey has brought so far.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I know these talks can kind of be a little bit daunting, but I just know how pivotal they've been in my journey. So I appreciate everyone's time and commitment to jump on. And I just want to thank, I'm on Kabi Kabi in Quandamuka land. So I just want to express my deepest gratitude to the Kabi Kabi and Quandamuka people for their blessing of allowing me to do business on their country. And also, yeah, definitely paying my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Yeah, this topic of global ambition has kind of unsettled me because these are such big words when you look at your so-called founder journey. But it's been a delightful little couple of weeks unpacking what that is and what that's meant to me to be able to share that with you. This all started, and I think I shared with Suze that this all started, I think when I was 7 or even earlier. I think I came out, I was birthed really with lipstick on. I've loved the cosmetic space and skincare space ever since I was a little girl. But I remember selling my first ever grass square out the front of my grandmother's house in Mount Isa. So that was my first kind of taste of entrepreneurship. I believed that everyone needed great grass like my grandparents, so I went after that. But failed attempt at, you know, the millionaire title selling grass squares. I moved to just the YAA. I don't know if anyone remembers that, the Young Achievement Australia program in year 11, where I had a taste for real innovation, and we made scented wind chimes, which was really cool. And I knew that I was creative, but I don't think people talk about gifts and talents often enough to really capitalize and kind of sharpen each other around gifts and talents in the innovation space. But that was where I kind of knew I'd love to be in business and I'd love to make things and produce things, but I just don't know what. So I have had a background in sales and marketing for majority of my career. And the raw and the real of it is I got sick quite a few years ago from burnout. I was in a network marketing model. And whilst I absolutely loved it, personal trauma and, just this whole desire to succeed, I ended up getting really, really sick. I lost my job in the wine industry and I had to kind of make my way through this kind of network marketing game to be able to support my kids. And while I was in it, I absolutely loved it. I won't lie. I loved the products. I loved everything about it. But one thing that really played on my heart for a very long time, in fact, was that this business model is not set up for mob, because you need to come with a certain set of skills and a certain set of experience. And then kind of that's guided you through the business model to then achieve success. And whilst I was very grateful for achieving elements of success in that business model, when you're a part of something cultural and spiritual and everything that comes with my culture, there was a cultural burden and somewhat of a cultural responsibility that I felt. And after hearing for so long, people say to me, I'd love to buy these products, but I need something for my husband or my partner or my boyfriend or my son. And I said to them, look, things in this range, they're beautiful, but they're not really targeted at men in general. I don't think that they would enjoy these just based on viscosity or the design. And funnily enough, towards the end of my network marketing career, I was offered an opportunity to do an accelerator. And sometimes I think opportunity presents itself and you really have to look at it for what it is, rather than kind of being so emotive and staying stuck in the way you are now. And whilst I didn't think that I was looking for something else, I did agree to the accelerator, and I was gifted that opportunity by Indigenous Business Australia. And it was a crazy journey where I developed several different concepts, but what was birthed out of that, and I'm actually going to show you, I've never shown really my tooling, but I'm going to show you. So this is the tooling that I designed for Ochre. So it was a cartridge system with a shaving brush, whereby you would turn the cartridge and it would push the product into the brush. And it was essentially a 3-step system. It was 7 products rolled into 3 steps. And I did the crazy thing of going after funding and being so emotional about my journey that I launched without really asking the market what they wanted. I lost $36,000. And when you're a single parent trying to raise 2 little girls, and you know that you've kind of got some gifts and talents, and you know that you're passionate, and you know that you've got puzzle pieces, but things aren't just lining up, I honestly went and did a sample kind of program, and I created all kinds of samples. I created these samples. I created these samples. I created these samples. Still losing money, but what I went after was what people actually wanted and what they actually needed, rather than what I thought they wanted. And I think that that is a really big shift in awareness for any entrepreneur, any innovator, to really test the market first, because we tend to be emotive and fall in love with our innovation before we've actually got market intelligence or market feedback about that. So I tested the market, and all of the men come back and said, we don't want all 3 products. That's too many. We just want the sunscreen that does everything. And in fact, it was a aftershave moisturizer with an SPF in it, all containing, bush medicine, beautiful products. I was mortified because they were calling my product a sunscreen, and it wasn't a sunscreen. But what that told me was that there was a need. But there was so many beautiful layers to this apparent need that risk helped me uncover. And I think that without spending the money, without failing, without going broke and having, I think it was like $5.40 to my name to relaunch Ochre Sun. Without all of those elements, I'd still be sitting here wondering. I probably would still be working with Susie and Kaz somewhere, still be wondering. But what I decided to do was go at it again because I had better market intelligence, and that's where Ochre Sun was birthed. And the photo on the screen is our ceremony. We were so blessed to have been given a blessing by the elders in North Queensland to really launch this and uncover the layers, both economically but also culturally. We have now this beautiful cultural responsibility to be the puzzle piece and shore up the supply chain, and that will hopefully kind of amplify the voices of the growers. And that's kind of my, and has been my big vision from the start. But I wrote down a couple of little notes about me being the puzzle piece. You know, I had to kind of wonder probably 700 times over, and I think I still do, whether like it was really me. Like, are you sure it's me? I had to question, you know, I'm born knowing that there's a creator, and same within my culture. We know there's a creator. So me having to kind of go, are you sure it's me? Like, is it really me? And, you know, I fell over 100 times asking myself that question, but I really had to get the courage to accept the fact that it was me and accept the whatever chain of events were going to come from this risk that I was taking, both for me, for my family, for my husband and my new little family. But I chose that knowing that regardless of where I got to, that I could take people along the way, and we just breathe belief and life into one another, whether they were innovating something or not. You know, some of my friends are on the call, and we've personally and professionally worked together and just loved on each other. But it all has come from this journey, right? It's always had legs to offer people, whether it was just hope or a story to share to encourage someone, or and all of that would be null and void without risk. So you know, just accepting that I was the puzzle piece and still am the puzzle piece that's going to join all and connect all these dots is a great privilege, and it's a very deep honor, and it comes with a lot of stress for sure. You know, you don't get to be sick, you don't get to have a migraine in the world that I'm living in, particularly when there's a cultural weight of responsibility. And I'm watching the very women that I'm working for still, there's one that owns 200 acres of her own land in the Kimberleys, and I love her, and she still has not enough money to feed her family and her children. And that cultural weight and that responsibility is so heavy that when I am sick or have a migraine, I just keep going because it's her that I'm thinking about. So a little bit of, I guess, the key milestones coming up for Ochre Sun are that we, and I say this, say we, but Matt Steen is involved in this goal as well. We are going to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool with sunscreen. It's 2.5 million litres. It ranges depending anywhere between, you know, $60 and $85 million. And this is through corporate partnerships. And the reason being is because people have Indigenous procurement targets to achieve. They also have, you know, this nationwide skin protection and sun protection, skin health kind of Morris government campaign that we're adhering to now, where sun safety is being amplified. And just sun safety in general, the risk of melanoma in our sunburnt country is, you know, worth billions. So we want to be part of that prevention, but we want to also help people achieve Indigenous procurement targets. But the layering and the cultural responsibility in the layering is that I think it's called SROI. So yeah, the social return on investment culturally, or what we refer to as the multiplication factor, is about $4.41 for every business that invests in or spends with an Indigenous business. And it's a multiplication effect because of what other Indigenous contractors or other Indigenous families do with that money to help other Indigenous people be more self-reliant and, self-sustainable in the community. So it's a big, if you're talking about, anywhere from $60 to $85 million, that multiplication effect is huge. And what that means is, as a redirection of spend, any corporate partnership that comes along to allow Ochre on the exclusivity of supply to their organization, both in, whether it be in our sunscreen or our hand sanitizer or our hand wash or our cleaning products, that redirection of spend, majority of those profits, we will be shoring up the supply chain and purchasing land and having extraction facilities set up for growers to extract off country. And this is, I'm kind of giving you world's first and world's best. I probably shouldn't, but maybe you can be the ambassadors that Ochre need to help ensure corporate partnerships come. But this part of the supply chain has been the missing puzzle piece for so many years. And it allows friends like mine at the Kimberleys to not only grow, but extract. So her supply chain is a lot more secure, and we purchase the extract from her directly and they go into our products. So it's surety of the supply chain, but also these growers are being paid what they're meant to be paid, which they're currently not. It also allows the consumer, which is a very smart consumer now, to purchase more authentic products and know that their spend actually impacts mob on country. So whilst a lot of corporates would love to employ more Indigenous people, it maybe doesn't suit the framework of the business at the time. But this strategy allows them to empower current supply chains, current growers, everyone else in terms of contractors and anyone in our supply chain. They can really have an impact. And that's kind of what we're looking to do in the next 2 years. Some of these corporate partnerships, if they come off in the next week, I was hoping to tell you tonight that they were, but watch this space. But if they come off in the next week, it means that our 10-year strategy will be brought forward and we will be able to achieve what we set out to achieve in the next 2 years, which means amazing employment strategies. People can come on our land and heal on country, bring their kids to work, learn, that side of agribusiness in picking and drying our botanicals and the start of extraction, and really inviting people to just be a part or be purposed as a part of our purpose. So that's really the vision, and it's big. I know it's big, and I know some of you are probably sweating, but it's something that if we don't get uncomfortable, nothing will change. And this country has beautiful frameworks in place to allow great change. But I guess the acceptance of me being that puzzle piece and my team being that, next product that will make change had to happen. But in saying that, I didn't do it on my own. And this business will, some people may write like overnight success. It doesn't exist. It was brought about by a lot of people. Harsh Mello in Townsville, Verve Design, Heidi Turner, Marissa and her team at the Marketing Factory. Matt and his team at Smart Precinct has been, or formerly known as INQ, was the birthplace of this business. And if I didn't have those people on a daily basis continuing to put air in my tires and grip onto the vision and feed into the vision, I wouldn't be here. And so I can't advocate on behalf of Smart Precinct and those other people enough, because it's not, you cannot do it on your own. So yeah, I sought advice from many of these people that have had skin in the game for a long time and just stepped out in faith and risked, and have tried and tried again and failed 100 times. If you go to Google Alana Kennedy, other than the soccer player, you'll see many of my marketing pieces that are not really, worth anything really, but they're worth a lot to the journey because they played a little role as I went along. So, yeah, I guess the only thing that I would ask in terms of what the community can do for us moving forward is, I guess, encourage a space of innovation. I think first and foremost, it takes a community of innovators to work together. And the bigger we are, the faster everybody goes. So just encourage people to be a part of Smart Precinct. And they're not paying me to say this, but it's because that was my birthplace. On the days when I struggled, Matt and I strategized. When Nicole and I talked through things. And it's going to the ground and working on a ground level where you can really catapult off those discussions. That's everything in the business. The other things that I'd love you to do is get your hands on some Ochre Sun. Give us a testimonial. Tell us where we could improve. We're better because of those improvements that we've made in the past, and we'll be better still because of the improvements that we will make. But also be a hope giver, be a belief sower, be a part of our mission and our journey. Watch us, support us, and refer. If you know of anyone in the corporate space that are looking to, branch out and diversify their spend in PPE, then we would love to be a part of that conversation. Yeah.
Thank you. Now introducing Bryce Szandro. Bryce is the 24-year-old founder and CEO of NextGen Dreams 3D and NextGen Dreams Software. The businesses are centered around the games, film and simulation industry, and he got his start as a freelancer in 2017 and now employs 25 fully remote staff around the world. Bryce and his team have worked on some of the largest games in the industry with major clients including Microsoft, Sony, Take-Two Interactive, Cubic Defense, and many more. Bryce works on his highly competitive global industry. Bryce works in this highly competitive global industry from right here in Townsville.
Yeah, really, really great, insightful talk, Alana. Like, very great stuff, and very excited to see where you kind of go with that. And also just want to thank Smart Precinct for having me as well. I guess, I can kind of get started as to how I ended up in this kind of position. So, I was really involved in the game space probably since about 14 years old. I was getting into the tools, trying stuff out. I was doing freelance graphic design and just kind of playing around and dabbling. And then eventually I ended up rocking up to online forums like Polycount. And from there, I ended up making those connections with people in the industry that were working for those big companies like Microsoft, Sony, and they were training me through like my time in high school. So, I was getting the best of the best, pretty much training me when I was exceptionally young, and being able to have access to those sort of people at that young age was kind of vital to my current success at this minute. I had a lot of guidance, a lot of understanding of like what's best practice. I was watching what the industry trends were and getting an understanding for, what people were needing from people that wanted to be professionals. And I think when I look at the current state of sort of education and the industry locally in Australia, they're very siloed. The education here doesn't really understand what it takes to be a professional in this space. And it being such a new industry, there's so much innovation and change happening every year. There's like new tools, new workflows, new things that we've got to basically pick up to kind of stay, in front. I'd say in terms of next gen success and probably, how we also got here on top of this being like an early adopter, I'd say like probably a big aspect was persistence. When I got out of school, I had 2 years in a job working for Telstra, but I was doing work on the side. And in my off time, when I was actually taking a holiday from work, I'd be traveling overseas, going to conferences, going to workshops, actually trying to make those connections and meet those people. And, that eventually grew. I'm getting emails from people I've met 3-4 years ago that have just kind of kept an eye on me, tracked what I've been doing, my progress. And from there, they're like, hey, Bryce, we've got this project. We really need people on it. We've seen the work that your team is doing, and, they want to pretty much work with us. And building that sort of reputation globally and internationally, it's really sort of set us on a trajectory of, success. It's pretty much been a 10-year process to get to the point that we're at the minute. In terms of what's coming up in the future for the company, like we've just announced a mentorship program. Pretty much I'm trying to replicate exactly the same scenario situation that I've had and actually have it in a structured way that can be done flexibly online. It's a new business model. We've luckily just had 6 signups onto the actual program. So March is sort of our first month of actually running the mentorships. And, so far it's been really great. The mentees are very enthusiastic, and I think they're very passionate about wanting to get into this industry. In terms of the work for hire business, that's kind of, we're looking to expand that and grow. We're looking at other avenues. We're wanting to get into the Web 3.0 metaverse space, and essentially we're trying to, understand where that is going, because those industries are starting to now kind of combine. The crypto and gaming space is getting bigger, and that seems to be like where most of the large organizations are kind of, centering their focus around. How do they end up, taking advantage of this amazing technology and putting it into their games in a way that the consumers actually want. And that's sort of the difficulty at the minute. I think it's kind of the wild, wild west. And I'd say, yeah, it's amazing just some of the new innovations that I've been seeing from some of our clients, like Playside Studios down south. They've just ended up doing a Beans NFT, which is based on the brand Dumb Ways to Die by Melbourne Rail. And they're actually now looking at taking those NFTs, making a 3D viewer, and then they're putting it into like their own miniature metaverse. So they've actually created a whole department that is dedicated just to that area. Yeah, I'd say if anyone's got any QA or anything that they do want to know about this industry, just because it's something that isn't very common in Townsville, I'm more than happy to answer questions.
If anyone does have any questions, please feel free to jump in really soon. I'll have one to start it off. What is the greatest piece of advice for launching or holding a presence for a startup in North Queensland?
In North Queensland, like I'd say, if we're going to be looking at global impact, you kind of need to separate yourself from just like one area. I don't think I really think about the location that I'm in. I'm also thinking about, well, what is the value that I'm delivering to my client base, my customers? Is that, are they getting a return on the investment that they're putting into the product that they're buying? Like our guys are looking at what is the quality of the product that we're receiving? And, is that at a reasonable cost? Like with the mentorship program, we ran surveys trying to understand, are we pricing what we're doing for our students is that a good for what they're getting and the cost of what they're, is that a good ROI? Do they feel like they're getting good value for money? And I think like in terms of any business, that's really what you should be looking at with whatever product or service that you're actually trying to sell.
I couldn't agree more. I had to move because location only mattered because I could be closer to the decision makers. But if I stayed regional, I wanted to drive the prosperity in the regions. Like I stayed for so long, but sometimes you have to risk. And so I changed locations so I could drive business back to the regions with our supply chain. So I agree, though, location never matters. If you've got a vision and there's a global market, then location never matters. I traveled heaps. I did what Bryce did, got involved in everything and anything, Myriad with Jane and a whole ton of things, because I wanted people to know that I wasn't here for 5 minutes. So yeah, be involved in everything. I'm still the same, talking to people, you know, from 3 years ago or whatever.
Anyone feel free to jump in with some questions.
Susie, I've got a question. Oh, I'm going to beat you to it, Lydia. The team's fighting over it. So those that don't know me, Cass, I'm head of engagement here at the Smart Precinct. Alana, I've been watching you for many years. You're amazing. I love you. You know that. I just love seeing your journey. Thank you so much for sharing your authentic self with us today. My question is for Bryce. You mentioned your mentorship program. I'm really interested to know, like, what are the future gamers looking like? Are they traditional gamers that are coming through, the 6 that have joined up? Are they the people that you would expect, or are they different age groups and more people kind of coming in that you wouldn't normally expect?
I'd say that, yeah, in terms of like the initial intake, they seem like generally a lot of the people that are getting into this industry are sort of like your late teens, early 20s, and that tends to be the demographic that you generally expect sort of coming into the space. In terms of like what they all want to do and what they actually want to make, they all have different interests. Like, you know, I have one guy, Tom Marks, he's a Townsville resident here. He's very sort of active in terms of like the creative space in town. He wants to learn about 3D projection mapping, and that's used in all sorts of things like advertising and events, etc. And then we've got another guy, Tristan. He wants to essentially do like game development, and he wants to sort of be an indie developer. So he's trying to understand the skills that go into actually creating like 3D assets and props, and you know, how can he make game props that actually hold up to what, you know, how do you make something that looks good and holds up to like a decent industry standard? That's what he's trying to find out. So what we're really trying to do is we're catering the actual learning and the education to the individual's goals, and we're trying to see where they want to go and how do we help them get there. That's sort of the rundown of it.
Yeah, it's very cool. And look, I admire what you're doing, and it's really interesting. I'd love to, if I can steal the floor just for a moment more, I'd love to know, like, you've got a fairly large team and you're quite young yourself. Like, how did you prepare yourself for that? And how did you start to build your team initially?
To be honest, like I just used a lot of the same channels that I've always used. Like, I'm very plugged in to the industry. Like, we have a lot of our own social media, like ArtStation. Polycount was another one I mentioned before. There's a lot of Discord servers that we use in that space. And for me, like, I'm always active. Like, I'm basically, from the second I wake up to pretty much the second I go to bed, I'm always looking at something. I'm talking to people. I'm flying to Melbourne tomorrow for an event that I'm sponsoring down south to basically see what's going on down there, visiting clients, looking at new potential talent hires, etc. Like, so the thing is, with what I do, I'm consistently plugged in. I don't really get a lot of downtime. The only time that I'm not doing this stuff is on the weekend, and then the remainder of the week is dedicated. That's pretty much sums it up with, like, you know, how I manage. In terms of preparing myself for it, it was a very gradual thing. Like, you don't just go from, like, you know, one person to 25 overnight. It's a snowball. So we probably, last year, we were at the beginning, we hit about 5 people. And then gradually, you know, I started looking at a lot of our current engagements with our clients and seeing, well, how do we grow this? How do we scale it? You know, what are we doing that isn't allowing us to upsell? You know, are there things that we're not identifying? So a big aspect of it is going through, talking to clients, figuring out pain points, understanding where there's gaps in their project and where they actually need more support. And then when I can identify that, start looking for solutions to those problems. I'm just consistently asking questions. That's, you know, any salesperson will tell you the best thing you can do is just ask a lot of questions and figure out where, you know, the clients are having issues.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing. Over to you, Lydia.
Hi, Bryce and Alana. Thank you very much for participating today in our first Wednesday Connect. I know you personally, and I love to hear your story, and you are both so inspirational for our community. Thanks again. And I would like to ask you so many questions. I think you've covered most of them tonight, but continuing with what you were saying, Bryce, about you are all full on to this, you are aware of everything around you, and you are trying to capture every opportunity that comes your way. That can be very stressful, particularly when you are a solo founder like Alana as well. And I like to ask you, because this is something that I see a lot with our entrepreneurs who are solo founders. What do you do with your free time? How do you unwind? How do you deal with stress and big challenges?
I'd say like just disconnect completely. Like people ask me, do you play like a lot of video games? And I'm like, no, it's like the last thing I want to do on my weekend. I think, you know, I'd rather spend it with my friends, my family. Like every Thursday night, I'm at mum and dad's, you know, having dinner. I'm at Sunday night, I'm with them having a Sunday roast. I'm my partner. And, you know, that weekend time is our time. We don't, anything work related, we try to cut it out as much as possible, because, you know, you need that balance. You need that time to adjust, and, you know, setting that kind of hard line that anything on the weekend in terms of work, it's off limits. I don't enter my office. I don't pick up a computer. It's either we're going to be watching a movie, we're going to go out and do a hike, get out the house, do some exercise, you know, go on a trip. Anything that is like non-work related, that's pretty much how I sort of manage to separate myself from that.
Right. What about you,
Alana?
Alana?
My story is so different, and I'm so glad for that. I have 4 kids. I have 2 of my own, Luke has 2 of his. So our life runs in 10-minute increments, and it always has. For those of you who know me, I'm a run in 5 or 10-minute increment kind of gal. But you know, my days are from like 8:30 when I finish, or 9 o'clock when I finish. School drop off, I try and fit in a bit of exercise, because then it's just work and kids and family. So till 2:30, and then I'm trying to wrap up work by the time the kids get home, so that I can really be present with them. But the beautiful thing about having kids though is it keeps it all real. The kids know, like they know right now, please don't walk by the door and make any noise. And what's cool is we share business milestones with the kids every afternoon, like, how was your day? How was what? And they know, like, if we've sat on a call or we're in amongst a negotiation, they'll ask. And I love that, because that breaks it up, and it kind of puts fuel to my fire. And then I go in further to the negotiation after their afternoon tea, and I'm ready to go again. But yeah, we sometimes work on the weekend just because the kids will be having their chill time, and Luke and I'll finish off invoicing or whatever we've got to do as downtime on the computer prepping for the week. But yeah, different strokes for different folks. I think with kids, that's just the juggling act, but I love it.
Awesome. I think Matt has a question as well.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Susan. Alana and Bryce, brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing your inspirational stories. Sometimes it makes us jealous. We're on the helping people side rather than being in the building business side. I'd love to know, Alana, over all of this time, how have you thought about fundraising for your business, equity, debt, bringing people on board, bootstrapping? What's been your journey in that space? Have you got any learnings, and would you do anything differently?
Great question, and it's the question. So I funded the start of the journey myself, and then, like I said, with Ochre, I lost $36,000, which was a tough way to start Ochre. And my definite learning around that is, don't have an ego the size of Tasmania like mine. Be humble enough to go after the market intelligence first and quantify first prior to launching, and make the desire a hair on fire kind of desire. I think we get a little bit complacent with our own feelings and emotions, and that's where it can really affect cash flow. So that's been a huge learning of mine. I also just recently had some changing in terms of the shareholding in my business. So I'm back to owning 100% of my business, just because I'm very cautious about bringing people on this mission that aren't directly aligned to the very core values. It has to be down to every thread in our tapestry. You have to be aligned. And I think that not being able to find those people has prevented me from scaling. I wish I'd gone after people to kind of expand the team sooner. That's another key learning. But yeah, bootstrapping is how I've funded the business, and it definitely hasn't accelerated the growth of the business. But I was able to connect with First Australians Capital, who have watched me and been working with me since I began 4 years ago. And we did a small capital raise just a couple of months ago to fund our run through the summer, just to kind of put us cash forward. But it wasn't a huge raise, and probably in the next quarter we'll pay it off. But we're looking at doing a huge raise to purchase some land and make this thing real, which scares the pants off me. I can't tell you. Like, I come from Mount Isa, which is in the back screen, single mum, Indigenous girl raised in a little country town. The thought of raising millions of dollars and accepting that I'm the puzzle piece is huge, is absolutely huge, and can be quite crippling. So we've gone after a couple of grant applications, gone after 2 at the moment with some major corporates. And if they come off, great, but I can't kind of sit there waiting for them to come off. So I am in talks at the moment. Probably will be in talks with you after this call, Matt, but I'm in talks with another funding body as well. They're a Christian funding body that have expressed interest in kind of funding the next larger portion of our business, because that puzzle piece, which is extraction on country, healing, getting blackfellas in and around to heal and work together, is the piece. Sunscreen's the vehicle for the piece. So we really need to be really serious about this next round, and not wait for revenue generation. I need to be audacious in this space, which is a huge growth element for me. Like Bryce said, it's gradual, but I got to put my big girl pants on and just go after it in the next 6 months and just make it happen.
Yeah, fantastic. That's really, really exciting. Thanks, Alana. Susan, since I'm asking questions, Bryce, could you tell us a little bit more about what you see happening in the metaverse? Is it something that more businesses will be engaging in, in 5 years' time? Why didn't Second Life work? And more generally, what are you thinking about your role in digital twinning, some of the stuff that's going on in defense and sort of the metaverse space?
Yeah. So in terms of the metaverse, like it's going to be a huge space. We've actually it's already starting to kind of take an effect in our industry sector. Like, we've had a massive skill shortage just due to like a lot of the doors that the crypto has opened up a lot of projects being funded with crypto. In terms of metaverse, like it's the use for like 3D asset creation skill set. That's really going to grow up, especially if it ends up, getting traction, more people start adopting it. Like right now, we're kind of in that stage of early adoption. It's very much like the internet in its wild, wild west sort of phase where everyone was just trying to get in, get an understanding, and then sort of, you'll have those few players in the space that will establish like the best practices and sort of how to go about it. And then from there, like, that's really what we're going to see. And I think it'll probably take a couple years to get there, but I think in terms of the rate of that happening, it's going to be a lot faster than what we've seen previously. That's from my point of view. In terms of the military and the simulation aspect of digital twinning, I think that work's always sort of been going around. I think that from what my discussions have been, they just want to be able to offer the best in class. Like they kind of want to merge the quality that we're able to hit with our large scale game development clients and actually bring that to simulations so that they can, pretty much the immersion and the believability of what they're actually visualizing in these simulations is as close as possible to what they're seeing in the real world. And having a team that is world-class and is operating, at the top level, that's what has been really missing for a lot of these guys. So having access to that has kind of been an invaluable, asset to them. That's basically the value for them, and that's how they see it. Based on the discussions that we've been having. I don't really want to,
Awesome.
Sorry, Matt, I missed that.
I think he said awesome.
Okay. I think in terms of, I was just thinking about like Alana's situation where, she's now looking to go down that route of corporatization, getting funding and kind of, going down that route and, moving from that bootstrap business to now actually looking to expand. We're sort of in that same kind of vein. Like at this very minute, we're starting to look at mergers and acquisitions. We're looking to then start bringing in external investment, getting a team together and trying to basically become more corporate. And the reason being is that like the market is kind of growing. We want to establish ourselves as a larger presence, and we need a really good team of people in those other areas of business to help us do that. I can only do so much as one solo entrepreneur at the top, and you need a good team that can actually help you navigate, risk assess, do the due diligence required to actually start doing a lot of that mergers and acquisition. And that's sort of where I'm looking at kind of heading as well. So it sounds like, there's a lot of, I'd say, synergies or sort of similarities between like the two of us at this current stage.
Amazing. Thanks so much for that, Bryce. Feel free, I think Miranda has her hand up, but feel free to just jump in with any questions as we proceed, everyone.
So that was actually a really good segue for the question that I have for both Bryce and Alana was, so you have experienced all the highs and lows and all the brutal crying on your pillows of being a startup. And now you're reaching that next level, staff all around the country looking at mergers and acquisitions and big corporatizations. That's a whole heap of different skill sets that you need and different support services that you need. So what things that precincts like Smart Precinct provide or are not providing that could keep you in our community longer and so that we can help you on your journey?
I'd say like in terms of what I'm looking for at the minute is I'm really trying to increase local presence. I think the mentorship program is a way of giving kind of a pathway to people in this community who otherwise wouldn't have thought of the games industry or, you know, the 3D, you know, 3D graphics as kind of a valid career path. For me, like, it's just basically having that access to the community, getting put in touch with people with those other skill sets, and, you know, just making those connections, looking for people that would be looking to invest in this space, you know, has interest in understanding what we do. And, you know, this is kind of like a new age business. You know, it's, you know, the industry is pretty young in comparison to, say, like a lot of the traditional businesses that, you know, North Queensland is used to seeing, where it's a lot of mum and dad pop-up shops, you know, cafes, restaurants, and just, you know, basic amenities and services. You know, we're kind of working in the digital asset creation space. We're creating digital assets for businesses that are going into the digital era. So we're a completely different ball game to what, you know, a lot of people know and are used to. So getting access to people that have interest in that and want to know more about it, that's really, you know, what Smart Precinct does for us. Like, it puts us in front of those people that want to know more about the space that we're in and get a kind of an understanding and a grasp around it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the network, and I think I said it on the in the chat room before. North Queensland has a really unique and very, very powerful networking space of people both visiting the region and that live in the region. And my network is majority people that I've met whilst being in the region, whilst being in amongst Smart Precincts. So I think it's just, yeah, understanding where we are at and maybe helping to connect the dots. Like, for instance, I think there's Angels and Q. Matt, you'll be able to verse us on other funding bodies, but maybe it's that service of preempting the funding and kind of vetting the external investor according to values and goals of each individual business, particularly because our industries are completely different. And knowing what you know of us, both as founders and both about the industries we work in, just that vetting process kind of helps to expedite those rounds. But also just Lydia's brilliant at it. I probably haven't utilized her as much as I could have, but the wealth of knowledge just with her alone, being able to get kind of ducks in a row is very, very unique in the innovation startup space. And I think that's probably the positioning that's, you know, Smart Precinct can capitalize in the future, is having the expertise under one roof is kind of, yeah, not really seen or heard of.
Any other questions? What questions do we have? May, do you have a question? Just throw you in the hot seat.
Yes, thank you, Susan. Sorry, I was trying to find my unmute. Okay, yeah, I think you both have really touched on it, and it's probably got something to do with what Miranda has asked you here. But it's you know, fundamentally, you've sort of said you've used Smart Precinct and you've used your community, but what other resources have you used to help you look at a global market? Because as you say, it is quite daunting, especially for a small startup business that it has evolved. But so what other resources have you used?
Well, I'd say in terms of resources, it's understanding the industry that you're competing in. So for me, it would be, you know, going to these industry events, meeting these people that are key players in the space and understanding, you know, what they want, what they're talking about, what are some of the topics that are big in our industry, LinkedIn's probably a big one. Like, you know, I find a lot of the stuff that's happening with us is keeping a very strong presence in those different communities and those different spaces, keeping people up to date on what we're doing and making sure that people can see us. Because you can, if you're not showing what you're doing and you're not, you know, broadcasting to the world that you exist, well, you're not really going to have a business for very long. You got to make sure that people know about you and they can see the great work that you're doing. So I'd say LinkedIn's probably a big one. Online, social media, taking advantage of just, you know, those communities and seeing what they're looking at and what they have to offer.
I agree. I also did launch off the back of local events. We had an Indigenous marketplace event run by Townsville City Council. So I think getting involved in those events too, where people want to amplify that kind of regional presence, that the events already exist, you just have to attend. And I think the mindset that I adopted, people used to say to me all the time, you don't make money at events. But I believe that to be completely untrue, because you're really showing people that regardless of what I have right now, this is what I hope to achieve. And I think the more that you can say that, the more that people will come along for the ride. But yeah, I did everything, Dream Summit, Myriad, Investable Accelerator. I got involved, you know, I went to pitch nights, I pitched, I was so scared. You know, the pitches, if I could show you my decks, are laughable, but I did it anyway. And had, I guess, the guts enough to just say, look, these are the spaces and places where I went wrong, but I'll try the next time. So I think it was, and also, I guess also being okay to lose a lot of people in your community, because innovation takes time and it takes commitment, and you've got to want to live it and breathe it. And this whole idea of, oh, you know, so-and-so said it's not a good idea, or, you know, I surrounded myself with people that were in the innovation space, that knew what creativity meant. It's all the failures, it's all the money, it's all of that. But I refused to be around people that told me that I couldn't achieve something. So yeah, I resourced myself with people that were in really big places. I you know, kind of reached out and got to know them, even though they weren't a part of my journey then, they're now a part of my journey. So people have been pivotal resources. But yeah, just being a part of everything and anything industry specific, and not just having presence.
Yeah. I think Alana touched on a good point there with the events, like saying that you don't make money at events. We had a meeting with Sony last night, and they made a very good point to me that, you know, I was like, I had a key question, because, you know, they're now looking for more people to basically work with them since there's been a massive change in the market. And I was like, you know, what are some of the requirements for you in terms of your due diligence do you require from us? And that was a key question in that meeting. And in that meeting, he said to me, one of the key things that I am looking at, you know, with you or any other vendor, is when we go to these events, when you tell me like what is in your plans and what you're looking to achieve, you know, is that happening? Are you staying the course to that? And has there been progress over the time that we've met and discussed? You know, they're keeping track. Those clients, those people, those big businesses, they're watching. Cubic as well. Like, we had an initial meet with them. The meeting was something completely different. It was about digital twinning, etc., but it was in a completely different use case and scenario. Nothing came out of that initial meeting, but, you know, with time, with them just keeping an eye on what we're up to and us, you know, posting stuff out, showing the world what we're actually doing. From there, they go, all right, we think that these guys are legit. They're continuing to create cool things. They're still here. they're still producing, the company's growing, the business looks healthy. From there, then they start, well, you know, we think that we should give them a shot now. You know, if they weren't doing anything that was worthwhile, they wouldn't still be in the market. That's, you know, that's what these big companies, they're not looking at you like for something straight away. They're looking at you for like 2, 3, 4, 5, potentially even 10 years down the line, because, you know, their priorities are changing and, you know, they're growing, you're growing. That's sort of the way to look at events. I think you don't get the prize straight off the bat.
Awesome. Feel free to jump in with questions, anyone, please.
Can I jump in with a question for Alana? So it's Anna here from the Smart Precinct team. I was just wondering, because it's International Women's Day next week, and just in light of that, I was wondering if you have any words for any women in the innovation and business space.
I have so many words, but I will use my filter. I work in a male-dominated industry. Manufacturing is a male-dominated industry. So much respect for the men in my industry because they've paved the way, right? But one thing that I know to be sure is that there is a place for us women to exude all the beautiful nurturing and all the different motherly female hats that we possess and are gifted with. There is a place for that in each and every market. It's whether or not we are going to have courage enough to take our place. A lot of women become intimidated by the market because of, you know, big egos and you know, these big male dominated boards. And I guess I was out to prove something, and not with an ego, but like I said, the weight of cultural responsibility. And I could see something in the distant future in terms of a niche. I could just kind of feel it. I worked with some, you know, amazing big manufacturers when I very first started that actually refused to work with me. I have a feeling it's because I'm female, but I'm only assuming that. But it's something that drove me to be where I am now. And it's a beautiful, you know, kind of welcome and refreshing time that we live in terms of dynamic of and change. There is a lot of things that I, you know, kind of gets me grumpy about the male dominated space that I'm in, but instead of kind of griping about it, I'm just going to plow forward and make a space and make room for other people to take their space in this industry. And I think that's the mindset that you have to possess, because I could put on my big egotistical hat, which I do wear one sometimes, and I have to uppercut myself and remind myself that humility is so much better. But I can't make and take ground when I'm sitting in this high position of, you know, poise and hot air. I can take ground when I go low and we stay committed to the vision, and I just bring a lot of women on board with me because they understand the space, they understand their rightful place. So I think it's just staying committed and focused in, you know, being able to offer what you already innately are gifted with, and just go low. You know, be really good at what you're, you know, what you already possess, and take ground because you know it's your rightful place, but come from a space of love, innovation, drive, passion, and you'll win every time. I just, yeah, it's been a bit of a battle of mine. So thanks for the question.
Thank you.
This is your last chance. Questions.
Suze, I might just throw in there, I think regardless of what minority group everyone comes from or experiencing, I think a lot of the people who are on the call or in the room or innovating are doing something and are change makers in their own right. And I think just for everyone to be brave enough to step up is so incredibly amazing, and it really showcases why events like these are so important. And Alana, you may not be sitting in Townsville, but you'll always be part of our family, and we love you. And I think the fact that we have Bryce here spearheading the industry, bringing so much value to our city, and putting on these mentoring programs, and both of you are providing those opportunities for more people. And I'm sure if anyone on this call wanted to reach out, I'm sure you would both be open to it. And I think that the value that you are putting back into the community, it just shows how valuable you both are. And I know we've probably talked a lot, but on behalf of the team, I just want to say thank you so much for the value you've brought tonight, and for showing so much hope in being trailblazers. So thank you. We really appreciate it.
Here.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Hey, can I just leave a little statement of encouragement? Keep showing up. I didn't get the whole vision when I started. It was only that I kept showing up that I kind of kept getting pieces of the vision along the way. So I think, like you said, Cass, everyone showing up here has got something wonderful to offer this space. We're all creatives, we're all innovators, but it's just, if you keep showing up, you kind of get pieces of wisdom as you go along the way, and something great will be kind of birthed in that waiting period, that you can then, you know, you've collated all the resources, all the networks, all the advice, all the learnings that you can then catapult off. So I think that, yeah, just keep showing up, become part of the fabric. It's yeah,
Alana, and so we can cry together in the corner when things aren't going so great, which is equally as important to have someone there for you.
Oh, it's paramount.
Any final words from you, Bryce? It doesn't have to be about crying in the corner, but it can be if you like.
No, I just wanna say thank you for having me. Thank you for listening, and appreciate the questions, and yeah, really thanks for the opportunity, and I hope you guys got something out of it. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you so much for taking the time in the lead up to this event, and also tonight to join us and share your story and your part of your journey as you go on to bigger and better things, and keep us in the loop as you do. Stay tuned though, because we've got the hotspot coming up. You can join us for the hotspot, and we've got a couple of nominations, but we would love to have a couple more. So please drop us a note in the chat down here if you would like to. So the hotspot, you can use the hotspot to introduce yourself if you're new to our community, discuss an area that others can support you, share opportunities for others. It might be grants, training, leads, supports, lots of different things, or celebrate personal wins and major milestones. As we've heard from our guest speakers, you've got to celebrate those wins and talk about the great news. The rules of the hotspot, this is very important, everyone please pay attention. You can and should talk about the hotspot. There are no losers on the hotspot. It's fun, kind, supportive, and a safe space. Networking is encouraged to get on the hotspot. There is 2 minutes only. There are some exceptions for audience participation. There will be a bell. You're on mute, Cass. Like
there is a bell.
There is a bell, and Cassandra is not afraid to use it. All the rules are subject to change. Positive banter is encouraged. Okay. I haven't seen him on the call, but Dominic Corradini is the first person to nominate for the hotspot. Oh, he is there, and he's unmuted. He's ready. Okie dokie. Over to you, Dominic. 2 minutes is on the clock.
Just want to say to Alana and Bryce, very inspirational with what you guys are doing in your business. Very, very impressive. Well done, guys. So just a little bit about me, Dominic Corradini. I just started GYB Digital Marketing full-time about 6 weeks ago. Have a team of experts who deliver services such as SEO, social media marketing, web design, and mobile apps. I feel what sets GYB apart from other agencies is our ability to provide high-quality, state-of-the-art, cost-effective mobile apps. And look, I think this is very exciting to be able to offer affordable mobile app technology to businesses, especially those who are looking to dramatically increase repeat business without spending a lot of money on marketing. it's a good alternative to social media marketing. Not all businesses can afford to spend a lot of money on social media marketing, especially with what's happened in the past couple of years with COVID. So with our mobile apps, we have over 50 different features to choose from, but we find that most businesses normally choose about 5 to 7 features. Thank you.
Didn't even get to use the bell.
Oh, I've got another Zoom meeting in 3 minutes.
She's
Good job.
devastated.
I love belling.
Okay,
Great
great
to hear about it.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Dominic?
Dominic,
Thank you.
Miranda Mears from
thanks,
Smart
Miranda.
Precinct. So what businesses would typically use you to create a low-cost mobile app? What part of the market segment are they looking at in terms of capturing their consumer engagement?
So I suppose businesses that have like low inherent loyalty and also low ticket items, we find that businesses like that, because like if you go down the road of social media marketing, you know, it can cost you $2,000–3,000 per month to do social media. So we're finding that with we have proprietary software that gives us the ability to, provide these low cost apps. That way, there's initial outlay, but then everything from there, you're marketing directly to your clientele at really no cost, through push notifications.
Thank you.
No worries.
Wonderful.
Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
Dominic, what drives you?
What drives me? Oh, look, I've been in business before, and I think the ability, to be able to provide a product and service like mobile apps and these other services to help businesses, especially with everything that's happened in the past couple of years. I go and visit a lot of businesses. I walk into their shops. I go from door to door. I don't just pick up the phone. I actually walk into their shops to talk to them face to face. And, a lot of businesses I'm talking to are struggling, and, I'm there to try and help them with alternatives to see if I can help them, with their business and move forward.
So good.
Tristan, have you got anything from the dev community that you'd love to share?
Actually, I'm in the middle of sending emails to try and organise the next event right now. So,
can you tell us about the next event? Give us like
I'll give you a sneak
gossip.
preview. Yeah. So the inside gossip is that it'll be a kind of tech recruitment panel event. So it'll probably be online only, because we'll have some guest speakers from larger companies down south, but we'll be talking about what recruiters are looking for if you're looking to enter the tech space, what it's like in the recruitment processes for larger companies at the moment, because kind of that space is always changing. So if you're someone who has a bit of experience in programming or wants to get into that space, or know someone who does, we'll be talking about the best ways to get into that, what you need to be looking for in terms of setting up your resume, what good employers are doing in their interview processes, so you know what to expect, and kind of just how to impress people and look good in that space and hopefully secure yourself a job. There's a lot that's changing in the industry at the moment, so we like to kind of do one of these once a year and just before the graduate recruitment starts. So in particular, if you know a tertiary student who's looking to go out afterwards, this will be particularly tailored to them. That'll probably be coming along in late March, but if you need details on that, head to devnq.org and head over to our meetup page, and they'll go up there as soon as we know all the final details.
That's awesome. And for those that are joining us that haven't been on our First Wednesday call, sorry, Susie, just jumping in.
Go for it.
We are incredibly blessed to have some amazing communities that we support here. And we didn't introduce Tristan, but Tristan heads up DevNQ here in North Queensland. We're also blessed that he's one of our board members, and I'm not going to throw him under the bus. But we have John here as well, who also is very heavily heavily involved in the STEM community, and there's many communities. So if you haven't reached out to some of those communities, there are opportunities where you can really link in to area specific opportunities that might align with your goals of your business. So yeah, we're really, really lucky to have so many amazing people that support our community. And I think Michael's finally back, Suze, if you want to pick on him.
He is, and I'm going to pick on him in a second. But just to a point that Bryce mentioned before, there's a lot of people that are coming up through, and sometimes the parents don't really know much about the industry, and people like Bryce and Tristan and John and their communities, Townsville STEM Hub and DevNQ, part of what they do is engage with parents to inform parents so that, you know, while they might not be traditional jobs that we know of in these times or in the past, these jobs of the future are what, and how to get that education to get into those industries is part of what they do. So if you've ever got any questions because your kids are wanting to get into those fields, give them a buzz, message them on their Facebook pages or websites, attend their events, because these guys are open books and they're really wanting to help that next generation come through. So so please reach out to those communities. They do amazing things. Okay, Michael Brummage. Really,
hello.
this is really on the hotspot.
Oh, we're doing hotspot. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Anyway, one of my thoughts was, Bryce, can we put some maybe an Ochre Sun in the metaverse so you can get the Ochre Sun products? I think.
No, I'm not.
Slowly build that up, play the long game with clients, and they'll start popping up Ochre Sun everywhere. Okay, so I'm here with my mate Bede. Hello. And we have, I suppose, if we're on the hotspots, we can talk about two different things. I can talk about the
You've got 1 minute.
In 1 minute.
Only get 2 minutes.
How about I just do both? Okay, so we're in the library studios at the moment. So it's the 24/7 creative space where community can come and make things. And it actually, the original idea came from because we're going to have a space like this with Smart Precinct once upon a time in Palmer Street. So we've still got our spaces. And it's really nice where we've got people that come through these spaces to create and then off into Smart Precinct when they suddenly realize that the thing they're making actually has business application. And they come here because they just solved a problem or they have an idea. And next minute, this actually has some maybe social enterprise or commercial application. Check out Smart Precinct, off you go. Up to the journey. So we're in this space right now, but the reason Bede and I are in this space is that every Wednesday we meet up because we have a short film project that we're working on, and that's our creative two dads. This is our creative moment where we'd love to see the city to be more creative, and to do that we have to kind of punch a bit higher. I was talking to a filmmaker today that we're like, this is the project we're working on, and they were saying, oh, that's much better than insurance ads, because that was his comment on the creativity for Townsville was the insurance ad benchmark. And he was saying, we got to lift that. And he loves that. There are little pockets everywhere around Townsville of people that are creative, that are trying to push that boundary and lift that. And that's been our project. So every Wednesday night, we've been meeting up. How do we create a short film that is at that Netflix broadcast quality? And we're going to make it here locally in the next year. That's our objective with local talent. To lift that benchmark, say, this is our next level, and that's the new benchmark for creativity in short films. And maybe we can have some product placement in there, we'll see. So a bit of sponsorship or in kind. Sorry if you don't do all the talking.
What is it?
Is there anything the community can do to support this this film that you're making?
Well, by the end of the year, we'll have a premiere. And so, of course, come to the premiere. But we're at the stage, the moment we're doing our project management logistics and doing cast and crew. So it's pulling together people that we love to work with. And then after that, I think throughout the year, we'll look at doing some workshops. I think so, things that we've learned, but also to include people who want to get better with their kind of that content and that creativity through what we've learned and through what we do, we can start to pull together those creatives out of the woodwork. And who knows, maybe end up with some trailers or with some products that come from the characters and the props that we'll use in the film. Could have some leverage for the merchandise side of stuff. But we'll see. We're working our way through all that and having a bit of fun on the way.
Awesome.
And doing little detours like jumping into our Wednesday Connect.
Yeah, and then getting thrown on the hotspot.
Yes.
You never know where you'll end up in a big city. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, guys. Last call for nominations.
Suze, can I throw one more person up?
Yeah, as long as it's not me, sure.
I actually just wanted to know from our fierce leader, just in regards to our community, what could our community be doing? How can they tap into the resources as you see fit at the moment? Like, what are the opportunities that are out there? And based on your knowledge, where's their next go-to?
Thanks, Cass, for that opportunity. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Hey, no, look, I think we couldn't be more excited that when council first wanted to get behind supporting the high growth businesses of Townsville, and we didn't really know how we were going to do it, and we didn't really know how many people were out there and how it would work. It really does feel, particularly off the back of our last 2021 celebration of the businesses and seeing folks like Alana and Bryce, and I know Michael's got something under the secret sort of hood at the moment that could be really exciting and game-changing. I'm sure a lot of the other business people online are the same. I think we've really found ourselves now ready to look at what is the next phase for Smart Precinct. How do we make sure that we can journey along and grow with these entrepreneurs? And what is that next level of really high value, shift the needle service and support that we can deliver? And how do we make sure that we are connected into national and global ecosystems to make sure that we can connect our founders with the right advice, the right mentors, the right industry connections, and the right funding? And so I'll look forward to announcing a new funding mechanism shortly as we take Alana's fundraise to market and others, because I know that there's a lot of others in the space. And I know Jane was on the call. Jane is one of the people that we know has invested in local businesses. And I think, it's great to have local business people who are looking to give back from that investor perspective, as well as all the amazing advice. And I know that there's a lot of other people out there like that as well. So I think really the big call for me is for the entrepreneurs and the business people out there. When you come to us and say, hey, I'm really looking for this kind of support, that is a phenomenal gift to us, because we only exist. The only reason we're here is to serve you and to see you grow. And to see then, those fruits flourish in the city and for the community. So please do give us your feedback and your requests.
Thanks, Matt. She didn't ding you.
I was thinking about it.
Right.
Thank you, everyone. Okay. Now to what's coming up at Smart Precinct. Next week, our latest cohort of iActivate will be showcasing their pitches and presentations. We encourage you to come along or join online to celebrate and support these new thriving businesses as they endeavour to take the next step in their entrepreneurial journey. This is also a great event if you're considering joining a future cohort, if you have an idea that could change the world, or you want to create sustainable solutions for the issues in your community or sector. Then on March 17, are you in the Charters Towers region or know someone who is? Come along on March 17 to meet the Smart Hub Charters Towers team. Book in for a 30-minute one-on-one business health check, or join informal group information meetups where you can find out more about the program and opportunities. To do that, email charterstowers@spnq.org.
Suze, I'm just going to throw you off. Can I just say, like, if you know Charters Towers businesses, if you're a Charters Towers business or you know Charters Towers businesses, well, please let them know we are coming. We are bringing our business investment lead, Dr. Lydia, who's on the call, out with us. And we want to be able to really bring our A game on this day. It's really about meeting the community, but it's is now available in that region, and we really are asking for your support to kind of help get the word out. We are sharing, but I think we are also a new offering. So, you know, of course they haven't met us yet, so they're still unsure. So if you know a business that you think will get value, please, you know, tag them, let them know, flick us an email and we'll follow them up. And I just appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's more information about Smart Hub Charters Towers on our website as well. So if you've missed the info here, then jump onto our website, either under the events tab or the Charters Towers Smart Hub information. Startup On-Ramp will be back underway in 2022. If you have a startup and want to set the foundations for success this year, reach out to the team. You can reach out for the Startup On-Ramp will help support early stage startups with global ambition, working on a product, idea phase, recently launched, and it's ideal for startups in the software, internet, hardware, physical product, and services area, and it's for businesses particularly that are highly scalable. And we've spoken about them a few times tonight. What are these things called NFTs that we keep hearing about? And what is the potential of NFTs and digital goods for businesses? That's what we're going to be deep diving into in our next First Wednesday Connect. So make sure you book your tickets for that. And it's going to be online and in person. You can find out all the details on our events page on our website, and you can also stay in contact with Smart Precinct on here on the details that are on the screen right now. I'd like to thank our guest speakers once again, Bryce Szandro from Next Gen Dreams 3D and Alana Kennedy from Ochre. I'm sure we've all taken something of value from the things that you have shared tonight, be it that we need to ask the questions of the right people. Talk to everyone that you can, because you never know who will put you in front of the next right person. Know that it is possible to do it alone, but it will be really tough, and people will help take you there further and faster. And get out of your comfort zone. And especially thanks to Michael for really getting out of your comfort zone with no notice tonight. Thank you to everyone who joined the hotspot and added questions in our conversation. We'd like to recognise our sponsors, NQ Rock, JCU, Townsville City Council, Advanced Queensland, Carey Group and DACTech. Smart Precinct is a proud small business friendly organisation. And until we see you in the Smart Precinct next, stay safe and dare to think big. Thanks so much for joining us.